What is going on, everybody? Thanks for checking in to our TDR Trade to Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales. Lots to dive into. We're going to get into some industry news involving Ascend Wellness and GTI. GTI continues to expand their footprint into Florida. Key location they just opened up recently in Jacksonville, announced earlier today. Want to wonder, how is this company plan to expand their footprint? I'm going to get some feedback from both Dan and Anthony pertaining to the state of Florida. And if we could see this company one day having maybe not the top, maybe the second biggest footprint within the state of Florida as well. Elephant in the room, we're going to discuss briefly. We're not a political show, but we want to discuss the feedback from last night's debate. Cannabis not brought up. What does that mean for the industry moving forward? So let's welcome in Anthony Varell. Good to see you. And I'm sure you watched a lot of that stuff last night. Interesting to say the least. It's all over Twitter, everywhere here today. And it was no shortage of entertainment, but I don't know if it was entertainment for any of the right reasons.
No, it was interesting. A lot of coherent points by both candidates. Real look into what's going on in Washington, and they were definitely covering the topics that matter. There was a lot of it was great.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest. I think it was a fucking joke.
That is hilarious. It was good. It was a fucking joke. All right, that's what I want to hear. The real Anthony.
It's just sad. It's just sad that we have those two that are that are representing the people of the United States of America. It sucks. It sucks. I mean, I think I've been pretty vocal about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump is insane, and I think Kamala Harris is just as bad. I think they're both terrible. I think it's a depiction of the times that we're living in. And unfortunately, I think it's a symptom of what America is right now. It sucks.
I know.
90% of the people don't align with those two candidates. It's crazy. I could go on for hours on this, but I know people don't really want to dive into politics. Obviously, cannabis wasn't mentioned. If people didn't notice, crypto wasn't either. They're not going to mention those topics, I think, on a big stage. We got a lot to dive into on the cannabis front, but as much as I was excited for it, it was just another letdown. There wasn't a lot of substance.
I know.
Not a lot of substance, a lot of kowtowing and just back and forth. I want to hear about what they're going to do to make my life, a lot of the other people's lives that are watching this, their life better and fix the train wreck that we're kind of dealing with right now.
Yeah.
None of that was said at all. Kamala had some good points. I think Trump also had a really good point when they talk about China tariffs. And he goes, well, why haven't you taken my tariffs off in the last 3.5 years? They're obviously working. She had no counterpunch to that. But just the total just revolving door of just insults and gotchas. I want to see more substantive rhetoric from both candidates, to be honest.
I agree with you. I see somebody grinning in the background. So let's welcome in our co-host here today, good friend of the podcast, Dan Ahrens from AdvisorShares. And I know you're smiling, my friend, but I love the take. It was good. Oh, she's a fucking disgrace. I love the opening, Anthony. I think that's the short clip that we're going to have.
I didn't say, hold on. I did not say she's a disgrace.
No.
I said they both were.
This was it. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I know some people have, expressed their opinions, and Kamala, yes, she did do better than Donald Trump last night. But look, my job here as hosting a podcast is moderating to see what your guys' opinions are and getting both back and forth, which is even keel. I can say as a professional, this debate was lost right off the top of the first question. When the question was asked, do you think Americans have a better life today than what they did 4 years ago? And the question that was asked was not answered, and there was no fact checking and no follow-up. So anyone out there that believes Kamala did a better job than Donald, yes, did she do very well? You're put into a position, and I will say this, and you can send me any emails and all this hate stuff, but it's 3-on-1. It was so biased, and this is not good for America as a whole. Now, I will sit here and say, do I think Donald Trump's the answer after last night? Hell no. Like it's a complete disaster right now. But, again, I don't want to get too much, and I already am, into the political show here today. But I think the big thing is that, look, we all knew cannabis was not get brought up. But when we actually, not brought up at all, but when we see the way this is kind of unfolded, you get the impression, Dan, that you would be surprised if this topic is brought up anytime by either candidate between now and the election, knowing the amount of pressing issues that are going to be happening and take place?
Well, I did our Alpha Nooner yesterday, and I said I'm not going to be a bit surprised if cannabis never comes up, because they only have an hour and a half, and there's going to be a lot of other issues to discuss. And they're sort of on the same side of the issue now, aren't they? So it's not like one of them can say something and then the other one can say, "Oh, I agree with you." He could talk about how nothing's been really seriously done the last 3.5 years. So no, I was not surprised at all that it didn't come up, because they're on the same side of the issue for the most part. But going back to the top, Anthony, you had me going there just for a second before you gave us our real thoughts on the debate. Yeah, that was, I turned it on. I watched like the first half of it, and I got completely bored with it and moved on. And then I came back for some highlights and so on. It was ugly. There's no debating that Kamala was much more practiced, much more coached up. And yes, the first question came down the line, and she deflected it and gave a bunch of her well-rehearsed talking points.
I do want to chime in real quick, because I'm getting a few comments here about bias, and we're saying, okay, Shatter, cats and dogs are not safe in Ohio. This is what I'm trying to say. You push Donald Trump. When he's lying, you push him. You call him out. That is what a good moderator has to do. But you have to do that on the other side as well. Do I think some of the stuff that he lied? 100% he lied. But you've got to push that on both sides as a moderator. Sorry, I'm all fired up. But
yeah, no, it was easily the most biased moderators that we've ever seen, to my knowledge, in a debate. It was 3-on-1 with him. He got in some good lines, some good memorable things. But how important are those gotcha lines for people remembering versus the overall tone, which was, again, Kamala was rehearsed. She was practiced. She got in her talking points. She was obviously well coached up on. And Trump was flying a little bit more by the seat of his pants, because he's done it a lot. He does a lot of town halls. He does a lot of rallies. He talks a lot, and he thought he could rest on those laurels. And he came across as an asshole last night in a lot of ways. A real big thing, though, and then we need to come back and talk about impact to cannabis and so on.
Yep.
Because, hey, reminder to everybody, Monday was a great day. Everybody remember Monday? It seems so long ago.
No.
I was speaking to my wife this morning, and I said, yeah, but how many undecided voters out there are out there still? Wasn't everybody's mind already pretty much made up going into this thing? Now, people came away from this thing a little bit more negative on Trump. Maybe Kamala had no policies, had done one interview that was pre-taped and edited and everything else, and had her boy sitting with her. She couldn't even do it on her own. It was pretty pathetic. But she may have won some people over. But again, how many people are really on the fence still?
Yeah, I hear you. Any questions or doubts on how she would handle herself on the main stage? I think a lot of that stuff was answered last night. So, to look at this as both sides, I thought Kamala did incredible. I think she did the best that she possibly could do. She actually showed that she's a great speaker, and she was composed the whole time. Donald Trump just, he got rattled. But at the same time, too, what I've liked to have seen from a moderation standpoint is a more balanced approach. You have to push Trump. You have to push, obviously, Kamala for a number of reasons, because at the end of the day, they're elected officials. They answer to the everyday Americans. That's the way politics should be set up. And that's something that I think that everybody that is an American citizen should want and see. But it is what it is. And here we are today. But
yeah, it was a very, very unfair debate, very biased. But Trump knew that walking in to an ABC run
Almost definitely
debate. And he thought he was up for it, and it didn't work out. But it's interesting. I'm seeing some of the comments over here too, and
oh man, we got
there's plenty of people that I just discussed that already had their minds made up going into the debate. So yes, by your comments, I can tell you're a Kamala fan, or I don't know if Kamala even has any real fans. There's a lot of Trump haters.
Kamala got Taylor Swift last night. The Taylor Swift Travis Kelce relationship is now split down the middle politically. You've got Travis Kelce endorsing Trump, and now you've got Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala.
Hey, you know
they
what?
Might be headed for like a break. They might be headed for a breakup.
And they were just at the U.S. Open where Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift were hugging. And you know what? That's the way things are supposed to work.
Correct.
We're supposed to be able to have Thanksgiving with family members that might disagree with us politically. We're supposed to be able to have friends. I have friends on both sides. We're supposed to be able to do that. And this country has gotten way too crazy town in there.
It was great. It was great to see them this morning at the 9/11 memorial. It was Schumer, Kamala, Donald, JD Vance, Bloomberg. They were all there, and it was like, all right, well, this is how it's supposed to be, guys.
Be civil.
You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to just be just sheer vitriol towards each other all the time. Like, be civil. Politics are not everything. The country is much more important than all these individual politicians.
Challenge is that, you know, having worked in big media, there's an average of 18,000 different behavioral database settings that your country has on everyday people like you and I. And if you're searching for something on your phone, that algorithm is going to keep on feeding that again and again and again. And I think this is why there's a lot of divide, because you're right, I'm wrong. Nobody wants to listen in this day and age, and that's why there's a lot of divide right now. And
well, it was crazy. It was crazy because yesterday I put a poll on Twitter. Trump is actively talking about cannabis, but who do you think would actually be a better administration for the industry? Now, I know people say that Twitter is more right-leaning. 65% of 752 people that voted said Donald Trump's administration would be better for cannabis. I don't understand for the life of me how you can sit here and say Trump's administration would definitely be better for cannabis. Kamala was part of the administration that started the rescheduling process.
Yeah.
And that started and they got everything done at the HHS. She's actually done things to further the cannabis industry. Donald Trump came out talking points, fantastic. Safe rescheduling Amendment 3. It's all talk. It's awesome. He also had his AG rescind the Cole memo last time around.
And then he fired him after that.
He did fire him. I'm on the record saying, yeah, and what? Because rescinding the Cole memo really didn't lead to anything predatory against cannabis businesses. But for a poll to kick back 65% of people think that Donald Trump's administration, without a doubt, would be better for cannabis is a little bit of a recency bias with what he just said compared to her saying nothing, but she has done something in the last 9 months. We'll call
Did you hear the part where she said last night, 81 million Americans fired you 4 years ago? Oh, his look on his face. He was livid. He was livid. But to your point, that's an interesting stat to say the least, but I have to look, she talked about the future. There's a couple of times where, Donald Trump was basically saying a lot about Joe Biden and the Biden administration. And she made it very clear that you're not running against Joe Biden. You're running against me. This is a new administration. So
I could argue that all day long.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not trying to make an argument against it, but I'm pretty sure her policy website was copied and pasted from Biden's policy website, which was proven. So technically, she's shooting herself in the foot there because she's not really running on the Kamala platform. It's the Biden platform reskinned to be the Kamala platform.
Yeah. That's telling right there. So saying that, okay, where are we then? And I don't want to guys, we really want to bring up cannabis on this topic right now, but we are all following this space. We're all cannabis investors and we want the best for this industry. Saying that, how much influence do you think Kamala had in helping the decision where the Biden administration recommended that cannabis should be rescheduled?
I think she had influence. I'll give credit where credit's due. She's on camera saying this could be pandering, this could be whatever, but she said it. The DEA needs to hurry up and reschedule cannabis. She had Fat Joe at the White House. She's talked about cannabis publicly. She has made things happen. And from what I can see, she's supported rescheduling, and she ultimately supports descheduling. I don't care what your views are about her. I don't care what your views are about Trump. She's done things to further the legalization of cannabis eventually. You cannot take that away from her.
Yep, I agree. And I think a lot of people have said that Biden in his bones is a prohibitionist from decades and decades ago. He is. Now, his handlers, his party, lots of people wanted him to push forward on cannabis reform. So thank everyone for letting that happen. I think he might have been the one that very purposely waited till his last year in office to really get it moving. But back to Kamala, yeah, I think undeniably, she is pro cannabis, maybe even a full descheduling.
And Tom reported this today, and I mean, take it as you will. She did check yes during 2020 on an ACLU survey about supporting the decriminalization of all drug possession on a federal level. So
fentanyl for everybody. Woo!
Yeah, I'm not for that. Definitely don't think that works. But Kamala is pro legalization of cannabis and pro descheduling, or we'll call it legalization of drugs, as per her answers on surveys that actually matter.
Let me put you guys on the spot then. Dan, we're in January 2025. Who would you like to see leading this country to benefit cannabis moving forward?
Oh God, I can't.
I don't want to sit here and say like, what are your
chat.
political views? I won't even. Let me rephrase that question. I don't want to know what your political views are, but who ultimately do you think is the better choice for this space? To like, is it Kamala, knowing that some of the stuff that's already like the wheels are in motion, or is it Donald Trump, based on some of the strong support that he has given this industry over the last 9 days?
Yeah, I do want to come back and discuss
is that
Trump's statement. I do want to come back and discuss that, because
kind of crazy. I say 9 days.
There's no debating that I have a hard time answering that, and the reason is, yes, Kamala as an individual is much more liberal historically than she is acting in the last 6 months. She is, as an individual, for decriminalization, legalization, whatever. The big but that I have in the back of my mind is that what's happened the last 3.5 years? What's even happened with her air quote friends, Booker and Schumer and so on, in having things move on. So on the bright side, Chad, I think cannabis investors don't look at the prices in the last, recently. I think we're in the catbird seat. I think things are moving forward with either winner because of Trump's statements and because of Kamala's views on the subject.
Topic of conversation, right?
So that was a lot of blah, blah, blah from me. I'll let Anthony weigh in.
So I'll put it pretty easily. This is not who I want to be in office. If we're talking about a probability of, if we're talking from a candidate perspective, who has a higher probability of furthering the cannabis industry? Yeah. It's without a doubt Kamala Harris. With Trump, you have question marks. Who's his AG? Is he actually being genuine? There's a bunch of other things. Who does he put in charge of the DEA? So I'm not saying I endorse either candidate, but if we're talking about probabilities of us being better this time next year as an industry, I don't really think you can make a sound argument from a mathematical perspective that Trump would be better than Kamala. It doesn't make sense.
So 48 hours ago, you did state that you think Trump has stolen basically the topic of cannabis and the issues around it. But further to that, you still strongly believe long-term Kamala is probably best suited for this industry to push forward.
Stolen the issue is semantics. Has he stolen the issue in terms of he's got all of our attention right now?
Yeah.
Sure. Does he do I believe that he's going to go through with everything that he said, and does he truly believe it? No.
Yeah.
Like there's definite doubt in my mind of the validity and the legitimacy that he's of what he's talking about. Could he follow through on it? And has he consistently said, yes, he's for states' rights and should people not be in jail because of cannabis? Sure, I believe him. That's common sense thinking in 2024. But from a probability perspective, who would I gamble on being better for the industry net? You got to go with Harris.
Yeah. Lots of comments coming in. Let us know all of your comments. Who's a better fit for this industry to move forward? Is it Democratic candidate Kamala Harris or Republican candidate Donald Trump? If elected as president, we'd love to get your feedback. Just leave the one name, Kamala or Donald. That's all we want to know. So leave some feedback. Wednesday afternoon, TDR Trade to Black podcast. The debate aftermath is what we titled this today. Dan Ahrens from AdvisorShares on with Anthony Varell. And don't look now, but obviously a very monumental day in American history with it being September 11th. It was good to see, obviously, like you said, a lot of support going down in New York City. Man, oh man, it's crazy to think. What are we, 2024, 23 years ago already? Where does time go? But a day that I think everybody remembers if they were alive, where they were when that happened, and thoughts and prayers to all the families that lost loved ones during that day. What a day. That's
I could tell you exactly what I did that entire day. Until up until now.
Yeah, you know what? I watched a lot of documentaries afterwards, and such a tragic event. It was beautiful on how I saw a lot of New Yorkers come together and the support and help that they provided each other. There were some documentaries. There's actually a guy, just an indie freelance filmmaker, that was going around with the one fire department crew that was on the street. That's where that one plane that you saw, they heard sort of the aerial sound that was over top, and they looked and one of the planes went in. But it was pretty incredible as they were following them around during that day. And man, oh man, did they ever get a front row seat as to like all the stuff that went down. But thoughts and prayers, obviously, to everybody that lost a loved one, and for those that lost their lives on 9/11 23 years ago. All right, let's now switch to I know we had some good price action earlier this week, and the industry just keeps on chugging along. So let's now focus on news involving Ascend Wellness and GTI. I'll first begin with Ascend Wellness. They just opened up their 39th overall dispensary. This one actually located in the state of Pennsylvania, which is a town called Whitehall. Anthony, you said this is a key location. This was announced earlier today. Do you know much about the location? You want to maybe talk a little bit more about this?
I don't know anything about the location. I just know that it was it's their fifth. I'm just being honest.
Pennsylvania. It's Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's their fifth location in Pennsylvania. I mean, I think it's their GTI ready to go first before Ascend. It is their 39th. It's their 39th overall in the footprint, and I mean, it's just another adult use state that they're fortifying their footprint.
Yeah. We're trying to get through to the new CEO of Ascend Wellness, because I know that, they had a press release out. What was that, 2 weeks ago? John Hartman, no longer CEO of the company, but we have reached out. We're hoping to set up an interview in the next couple of weeks with them, because I know there's a lot of investors that are interested in that story. And anytime you get a new CEO, you want to obviously know who they are, what their vision is, because there's a lot of great momentum, great locations with this specific company. But yeah, I think we'll keep people posted on that. But moving now to Florida, GTI, we'll talk about more dispensary openings. GTI opened up their 20th Florida location. This one's actually in Jacksonville. Another move, obviously, in the right direction, guys. I'm curious to see as they expand their footprint. Dan, I'll begin with you. Do you ever see this company eventually acquiring another Florida player and building a stronger and bigger footprint within that state?
Those things are perfect. You hate me giving you non-answers. I should be a politician. I give non-answers.
Anthony's I like that finger.
I don't think that's really their goal overall.
You don't think?
They don't like to do acquisitions like look at Curaleaf. Curaleaf wants to have the biggest footprint and do some big splash acquisitions. Now GTI, on the other hand, Ben always talks about head down and execute.
Yep.
And acquiring another license here, there, getting another dispensary here or there, picking off a little bit one at a time. Absolutely. And GTI has good Florida exposure now. And, they also have the mess that is arising out of New York. GTI has some good exposure there that they're finally profiting from. So, the MSO model, the MSO business is all about what your locations are and how they fit your business. So kudos to GTI for that Florida exposure.
Yep. Well, what's this at now? This is 20 in Florida.
20. This is 20 in Florida.
Trulieve is like 144,
145, 144, 145.
And then you got Verano with what, 72, 3, 7? Is
Verano 72. Curaleaf is somewhere in the mid 70s to high 80s. I mean, not high 80s, high 60s to mid 70s. I'm pretty sure they're around 73. Then you've got Air that has a formidable footprint. And then I think it really starts to drop off. The top is Trulieve, Verano, Curaleaf. Cresco's got, I think, 32. Sunburn's got 14 and growing, might be 15 now after PCB. And then the rest are just in the middle.
Yeah. Before we get into the next topic, Nath Alvarez writes, Ohio sales ? We actually put out a tweet last week, and courtesy of Cranes Media Ohio, they said from August 6th to the end of August, it did $40 million in sales. I would look at that as being very, very successful. And I know, Anthony, anyone we've talked to behind the scenes regarding this market, it just keeps building and building and building more momentum. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio, I think I'm going to say or reiterate again that Ohio's going to probably do to Ohio's going to do to MSO earnings what Maryland did when it came online. You're going to see it boost the top line. I think you're going to see it boost all the numbers all the way around, especially margin. I mean, the prices are high. They're very high in Ohio, and products are selling through. And they haven't even formally launched the true adult use framework yet, where they can advertise and the gloves completely come off.
Great point. I wanted to say that everybody needs a reminder that they had some stops and starts and unknown time frames, and then they suddenly turned on adult use, and it wasn't even known to everybody. So those outstanding numbers they put up are without what Anthony just said, the advertising, the full rollout, the prep time. So we're expecting strong things. And another thing Anthony just said is the prices. They are high prices in Ohio. And this is an excellent example of the fact that there are consumers out there.
Yep.
Let's talk about your retired folks. Let's talk about your moms and dads at home with kids and people with jobs that don't want to buy from the illicit market, and they're willing to pay up for that price at a legal dispensary. And again, sales are gangbusters. So that is a great example of when people bitch about pricing of illicit market versus legal market.
Yeah,
there's so many benefits to the legal market, as well as quality and testing and everything else.
Well, I said this a couple of weeks ago. Almost 80% of cannabis consumers are in full support of the legal market, which is great to see. So people are getting smarter and more educated. And why not? Because look, at the end of the day, if it's good product, that's the most important thing. If it's price competitive or it's getting better at it, why would you not support that? And it's pure convenience as well. And Irish Avenger actually writes, sounds like advertising in Ohio, it's going to be pretty restrictive. You guys heard anything related to that or no?
I don't know the actual restrictions, but I mean, I'm not opposed to adult use cannabis being relatively restricted as it relates to, let's say, out of home and just advertising in general. You got to age gate it. It shouldn't be going in front of kids. I mean, it shouldn't be everywhere. Like cannabis basically threw up in Las Vegas and LA too. It's everywhere. It's on every taxi. It's on every billboard. I'm for paring down the advertising to a certain degree.
You talk about advertisement. It's pretty much everywhere on all the cabs in Vegas as well.
Yeah. They all switched from strip clubs to cannabis dispensaries.
Shout out to Planet 13. A good buddy of mine was down at the Sphere watching the Grateful Dead last week. Said it was the best time of his life. And before he went, bought a couple gummies from the Planet 13 dispensary. Ran into another guy who was there for business with his wife. And they said they just met and they had an absolute blast. That is a place I want to go. Did you get down to the Sphere after MJ Biz last year, Dan? Or did you even go to MJ Biz last year?
This past year we didn't. We had been a couple of years in a row, and as I've told Anthony before, no, we don't set foot in the actual conference, but we have meetings with people in Vegas at that same time. But no, I haven't been to the darn Sphere. My wife got to see you too in the Sphere and said it was amazing.
Yeah, we were at the Canaccord event. Anthony and I, Aria, at that conference last year. So like the who's who. Tim Seymour was there, Kim Rivers, a few others, and they were all heading to the Sphere, spending an extra couple of days. But U2 kicked off, and I think it was like, if I'm correct, I think it was around $4,000 a ticket. But looks pretty amazing. This Saturday night should be pretty telling. I think it was maybe $4,000 for 2 tickets, but should be interesting this Saturday night. UFC is having their event at the Sphere this weekend, which should be great. So,
yeah.
Anyway, Dana White is the CEO of UFC and a good friend of Donald Trump's. And Donald Trump being from Florida, and let's switch now to that with Amendment 3. It's getting bipartisan support, which is great, I think, from both Joe Gruters and Chevron, Jones. You want to maybe elaborate on what I mean by that, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, they had the official ad drop today on the Smart and Safe campaign. They both basically were like, guys, we can't agree on anything. What we do agree on is Amendment 3. It brings freedom to the state of Florida. It's going to decriminalize cannabis in the state of Florida. I mean, they were harping on all of the right things. That being said as well, yesterday we had the Young Republicans of Florida back Amendment 3. And then we also had, I forget which one, but it was one of the Democratic organizations back Amendment 3. So Amendment 3 is reaching across the aisle. It's getting bipartisan support. And I mean, it makes sense. It's sensible to get adult use cannabis just rolled out in the state of Florida, decriminalize and legalize it. So it's no longer a class 3 felony, which it is currently in the state of Florida, and start to really get with the times.
Yeah. Brady Cobb had some good points too on Monday, talking about how corporate greed supersedes getting military veterans.
Oh,
opioids.
That was one thing that I wanted to speak about too.
Yeah.
So on Twitter, all of Christina Pashaw and DeSantis's henchmen that he just sends out all over Twitter, they've got everybody thinking that Amendment 3 is going to make home grow illegal. Growing plants in your home in the state of Florida, as it is right now today, is illegal. You will get arrested if you're growing marijuana in your house. Like, that's common sense. Does the bill outlaw home grow? No. Does it change? No. Does it change home grow? No, it can't, because it needed to be a single-use ballot initiative to get past the Supreme Court. If you included home grow in it, it already got shot down once. It was never going to get passed. Home grow will come online in Florida eventually. But Amendment 3 does not outlaw or make it illegal. It is illegal in present-day Florida to grow marijuana in your house. That is without a doubt.
You know, when I look back at legalization in Canada back in 2017, 18, this topic was a big one. And I can tell you right now, it is so not an important topic anymore. Like, where are you growing when you live in a city? What happens if you run into people and you want last minute, plans? It's like, those are the types of things where if you can go down to the corner, be at a dispensary, buy whatever, and invite your friends over if alcohol consumption's down, that's the value. But home grow was such a big topic, when reality of things, it's just, it's okay, I'll grow it, but you got to maintain it. You got to do it again and again.
Don't get me, a lot of
people want to do that.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think people should have the right to grow cannabis at home if they choose, but no one's got bathtub gin or vodka in their house. Like, it doesn't impact the industry. Some people do, sure. But I mean, it doesn't impact the industry. The industry, the MMTC operators in Florida do not care about home grow.
Yeah.
They're not going to war with home grow. Like, you're still going to have to go to a dispensary to get vape pens, edibles, beverages, derivative products, most flour. Growing marijuana is a pain in the ass. You've got to grow it, then you've got to cure it, dry it, trim it. Like, it's so much easier to go just get cannabis from a dispensary.
Well, let's be honest. What the issue is, the people that are against 3 are grasping at anything they can attempt to say. They're saying, oh, it's outlawing home grow, which, as you explained properly, now it has to be a single issue amendment, and it's not that. They're saying, oh, it's gonna, there's gonna be smoke everywhere. Well, there's already, hemp-based product everywhere anyway, and and they can. There's a bill to make outdoor smoking illegal. Yeah. So just remember, politicians are being politicians, and spokespeople for the anti-number 3 issue are going to say all kinds of crazy shit for the next 2 months still, or less than 2 months now. But let's back up a step. I am much more positive on 3 than I already was. I was pretty positive that it was leaning towards a pass. Now we had Trump come out with very good statements. Word is that Kim Rivers spoke to him personally.
Yeah, that's great.
But I've been saying for months, I talked to some of the same people that Anthony does, I think, that we were hearing that smart people were in the ear of the Trump team, and giving him the talking points and educating that team up, because the statement that Trump came out with on Sunday evening was stronger than
anything we've ever come across.
Yes. States' rights, safe banking, saying yes on 3, all the things that it was a very perfect statement. And I think 3 has an excellent chance of passing now. Here's the but. It's not done till it's done.
Yeah, I hear you.
And prices aren't going to act like we'd like them to until it becomes official. Now, let's look at the price action we saw on Monday. The big pop we saw on Monday.
But even a couple weeks before the election, if polls are trending 65, 66%, you don't see much price action before the election?
Well, again, we saw a big jump on Monday. It was real nice.
Yep.
But you zoom out a couple weeks or a couple months, all it did is make up for some of the ground we lost when that hearing was pushed back till December 2nd, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have more of those moves in the next 59 days, or 58 days now, whatever it is. There's going to be crazy moves in these stock prices, because on a regular day, the price action isn't great. There's not much volume. The fund itself gets a lot more volume than the individual names. And I would love to see more volume in those individual names. Yeah. The individual names go up, the fund goes up. It's not more complicated than that, people.
Yeah.
I've never been anyone to say buy the fund instead of the stocks. The fund is just a reflection of the stocks. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a vehicle.
Yep.
So, but Monday's price action was really nice. We're gonna see more moves like that whenever there's an announcement, whenever there's some new news, whenever there's something, and polling, Shad, is not enough. We have to see the real vote for 3 go through. With the debate last night, I wouldn't be surprised if Kamala's camp or Trump's camp comes out with some more announcements, something concrete between now and election day.
Okay. So
maybe. I don't know what it is. Go ahead.
I said earlier, do you think cannabis gets brought up between now and the election? So you're saying, I guess that's about as political as it gets when you say maybe. That's on the fence, but
solid maybe. Because again, Sunday evening's announcement was pretty huge.
It's huge.
Pretty huge.
Yeah.
It's the most conviction I've seen in this industry ever. And there was a few spaces with Jason Vidati that actually outlined that too, and I'm in total agreement with him. I think it was pretty clear as to where he stood, and it was great to see. But you brought up
more. There might be more from Trump, but remember, the Democrats camp hasn't really come out with anything. They came out with one statement trying to say, "Oh, Trump doesn't really mean it. He's a liar." And again, Anthony said there's question marks on Trump's, but I think he actually believes that. He's never really been anti-cannabis. People like Jeff Sessions has.
No.
But I would really expect the Kamala camp to say something between now and the election.
Yeah, I really am interested, like, for Trump to obviously say something like that with that kind of conviction. Like, what is the Dems thinking? Like, this is like, they're clearly smart and sitting back and taking their time and kind of coming up with an overall strategy. And that was demonstrated in the debate last night. But you wonder, excuse me, sorry, that clearly got their attention regarding that topic. And whether it happens or if there's any kind of momentum that's built prior to the election, if they are indeed elected in, you wonder if, that sort of tweet or post that Donald Trump made is something that, yes, they've been thinking about. And yes, for him to go to that extent to say it with that kind of conviction, they realize that, look, the next 4 years, we're going to have to obviously do something pertaining to this space because it becomes more and more popular amongst people, right?
Yeah, let's to be glass half full here. We have never in history had two candidates this positive on cannabis. We already have Schedule 3 moving right along. I mean, everybody got upset about that hearing, but then all the news came out that, hey, the hearing is actually a good thing. It makes it makes the rescheduling much more solid, much more defendable. It's probably going through. There's no reason to think it's not going through. And again, never in history have we had two candidates this positive on cannabis. And that was just Sunday evening. That was just this past Sunday evening. There's going to be some more news coming out between now and the election. There's almost got to be. The only thing is we still have these Canadian listed low volume cannabis stocks held in a liquid vehicle that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange in our fund, but we have to have all those total return swaps and all that other stuff. I've said before that I want to manage this fund very gently and not be doing crazy rebalances. All that stuff still holds true until something is actually solid. The election, yes on 3, the rescheduling goes through the next step. We need those things. But whenever we hear yes on 3, whenever we hear Garland is actually going to come out with a memo, whenever we hear safe banking maybe again, which no one wants to talk about it, but it could get jammed through before calendar year end again. Who knows? Those things will cause big bumps like we saw on Monday. They really will.
Wife woke me up this morning and said that you were talking in your sleep last night. I'm saying Amendment 3. So clearly it's on our minds all the time. But regardless of what way you look at it from a debate perspective, I think we can all agree, yes on 3, baby.
Yes.
Alan Laird, this is a question I think we all asked that follow the space. It was a well-written statement, but after the election, if he is elected, does he follow through? I don't have a crystal ball, and I have no idea.
There are some wild cards there, but again, we've heard a lot of people in communication with his camp. And remember, his camp now contains RFK and Vivek and sort of Elon Musk. There's very good reason to think he will follow through. More than follow through, he won't smash anything. He won't derail anything. It's a low priority for him. It's not going to be a top issue for him. But we have a fair amount of evidence to believe that he's not going to do the opposite, that he's not going to derail anything. Even in his first presidency, he thought it was Congress's job to do it, as compared to executive order for cannabis, because it wasn't a high priority for him.
You guys all need to watch Grass, a documentary narrated by Woody Harrelson. It will blow your minds if you haven't seen it yet. Either one of you seen it?
Nope.
All right. Well, I think we got pretty much everything. Fred Gans writes, I went to U2 last year. That was ridiculous.
You forgot to bring up safe banking. It's right there.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's on our
Safe
agenda.
banking is
Sorry.
right there. There was an article. There was an
Tee it
article
up.
in Marijuana
Tee it up.
Moment. Yeah, there was an article in Marijuana Moment where Sherrod Brown, Hickenlooper, and Braun, Senator Mike Braun from Indiana, a Republican, said that they were not aware that Donald Trump basically endorsed safe banking on Sunday. Now, I caught a lot of flack on Twitter for this, saying, "Oh, it's an echo chamber. Cannabis doesn't matter." I'm sorry, that's bullshit. In this instance, when Donald Trump puts out a statement on the cannabis industry at large, and you're a co-sponsor of the bill, you have a responsibility to understand what is going on in the media, and your staffers sure as hell should be educating you on what is being said at large.
100%.
If your staffers, if I'm a co-sponsor of safe banking and my staffers are not telling me that Donald Trump is talking about safe banking, the bill that I'm sponsoring, they better be fired.
No
They're not
kidding.
keeping me informed. Sure, cannabis doesn't matter. I'll agree with you on that statement. Cannabis doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But in this context, they should understand what's going on.
No kidding. That is
And that they're saying they don't have the votes. And we were told to our faces, if you remember, in Washington, Tommy Tuberville, I think it was Mike Brown, and Steve Daines all confirmed that the votes are there for safe banking. This is bullshit, and this needs to be called out. Don was all over this, all over Twitter.
Yep. Yeah. Politicians are ridiculous, lying.
Hey, I get if a politician's not aware of a bill, which we learned when we were in Washington, because there's a lot of stuff they got to keep on top of. But when you're a sponsor of a bill and you're unaware.
Correct. And Don also brought up, you think, okay, so JD Vance said that, or JD Vance voted no in the banking committee.
Yeah.
You don't think that if they bring safe banking to a floor vote, JD Vance is not going to switch his vote after the presidential candidate that he's the VP on the ticket just said he supports it? You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, safe banking it's I don't want to get positive on it because it's been just such a sore spot for everybody listening and everybody involved, but they have the votes. Like, this is complete just nonsense. Saying now that they don't have the votes.
Now, when you say that, Anthony, they have the votes for a straight safe banking bill. The problem
Schumer brings
is,
it to the floor.
Yeah. The problem is that one side is willing to vote yes for a straight safe banking bill, and the party that is supposedly better for cannabis isn't willing to put forth a straight banking bill because they want their cake and ice cream too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to learn more?
Safe and hope though is a win for the industry. Safe and hope is really what it should be.
Yeah. And anybody with any sense, like the three of us, and I would like to think everybody that's listening to the show right now believes that a straight safe banking bill is still a positive for the industry, and then let the other bills come, let the other steps come, let the other dominoes fall. But good God, politicians, get some straight safe banking done and stop gaslighting us.
Yes.
There's not enough votes. Whatever.
I didn't want to read that.
Jeff's got a solid point, but Mike Johnson is also not going to go against Donald Trump that just endorsed safe banking. Yeah. Mike Johnson also is from Louisiana, where Republican senators are coming out in supporting cannabis on a medical and an adult use level, and they're supporting sensible legislation as well as rescheduling. I don't think Mike Johnson, I could be wrong here, but I don't think Mike Johnson is the roadblock as per safe.
Well, I know who somewhat is blocking it. Marcus Smith, you're right. Cory Booker is one of them. And you can speculate, but when we saw him in Washington in the hallways, as I said time and time again, there were certain senators that didn't want any part of us. They were they were respectable in a lot of ways. With him, it was full on, took off almost to the point where
he hid from us.
He hid from us.
He hid from us. Two fucking guys in the media dressed in suits with microphones. He hid from us because of the term cannabis.
Pretend he was on a phone talking.
Yeah. He wouldn't come out of the room for 45 minutes. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
No.
25 minutes. He sat in there having his staffer peek through the door. if we were gone or not.
And we were not leaving.
No.
All right. Got to reach out to Mr. Murphy and get him back on. Hopefully maybe Friday. Let us know. You guys want to see Don Murphy back on the podcast? I'm not sure if he'll be available or not, but we can reach out to him and see if he's available on Friday. So if you'd like that, leave some comments below as well. If you like a lot of the information we're sharing here today, we'll get a quick recap and what to expect in the markets, not only for tomorrow, but later in the week. Anthony Varell will be pushing out the Baked In newsletter. If you haven't done so, lower right-hand corner, subscribe. There's the QR code to our Baked In newsletter. We very much appreciate it. And please like, subscribe, push this content out to your network. Spread the word, my friends, because we want everybody to vote yes on 3.
Yes.
Come November 5th night for all you Floridians, because it's not just a Florida initiative. It is a cannabis industry initiative, and this would be great for the industry.
Yeah, Shad, you should vote too. Mail in some votes. Mail in some votes for your dead grandma. Whatever you can.
Never thought about that, but maybe I should. What do you think?
I think it's allowed now.
Maybe. Good to see you, Mackenzie.
Come through the southern border. We'll give you a voter card right on the spot.
Actually, I like going to Mexico. How many votes do I get?
No.
What do you think they think of a guy named Shad with? What do you think they think of a guy named Shad with 2 D's crossing the Mexican border into the U.S.?
What do you mean? They let you right in. You get your driver's license, your voter's registration. They'll probably buy you a house. You get all set up nice. Just coming through the southern border, you're good.
What is this? We have 23 votes from a guy named Shad. How many Shads can there be?
Well, there's 44 in North America. I got a friend request on Facebook. I think I said this before.
I heard that story. That's great.
Shad with 2 D's. And I went onto the group, and there was 44 members. All right, gents, listen, appreciate the time, appreciate the feedback. We're at the 51-minute mark. We got a call coming up with the Cresco team in about 10 minutes. So, Anthony, appreciate, obviously, all the intake and or insight and feedback here today as well. Dan, you as well. We'll see you back at the normal time next Monday. In the meantime, everybody, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and thanks for chiming in. And we'll see you back here Friday morning at 11 a.m.
See you, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel, because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.